Hunters, welcome to Monster Hunter Rise on PC. It's finally here and my god must I say, it looks so good. So buttery smooth on PC. This game was definitely designed to be played in 60 frames with amazing particle effects. Now this is going to be the first of the weapons tutorials for mouse and keyboard. I've always enjoyed playing Monster Hunter with mouse and keyboard, so I'm aiming to do a couple more tutorials than I did for the Switch. So of course, Kinsect Glaive is first up on the list, and we're going to be taking a look at the basic moves, some combos to keep in mind, neat tips and tricks, and finally a look at some armor skill suggestions. I will preface this by saying that I won't go into too much detail about the Kinsects. I have a whole separate video breakdowning all the Kinsects, so be sure to take a look at that. The link is in the description. But first things first, I'm going to show you guys the keybinds that I changed. Now the default ones are pretty bad, so be sure to take a look at these. Adjust what you need to fit your playstyle. These are the keybinds that I changed for myself and I felt really good for the Kinsect Glaive, so be sure to check them out. So you guys can pause the video or screenshot this because we're about to grab a Wirebug and head on out. So for any hunt, one of the first things you have to do as an Kinsect Glaive hunter is to get your buffs. The Kinsect buffs are seen at the top left. Your Kinsect is your buddy pal, and so you send him out to hit different parts of the body and grab one of the three colors. If your weapon is stored, Control actually pulls out your weapon and sends your Kinsect out to wherever the camera is looking. You can do this at the start of a hunt by walking up to the monster and launching your Kinsect to get a buff. If your weapon is drawn, holding Control will actually give you the ability to aim, and then pressing left click will launch the Kinsect to a specific body part. The bug indicator on the top left does change color when the Kinsect actually makes contact with the body, and then you can Kinsect recall to bring the Kinsect back to your arm by holding Control plus right click to gain that buff. Now a side tip here, the Kinsect recall can be used to cancel a lot of the attack animations for the Kinsect Glaive. So keep this in mind, it does save you a whole bunch of time, and I will discuss and show gameplay of more on this in the combo and tricks section. For those new, each buff actually adds a specific ability to your hunter. Red is usually found at the head and represents the attack buff. This buff actually speeds up and strengthens your technique while also changing some of the heavy attacks, making it absolutely crucial to use for Kinsect Glaive. The skills before the red buff are much slower and not worth damage wise, so when you're in a hunt, getting this buff is your priority. Now in previous games, it wasn't necessary to have all three buffs, but Rise has changed that. The white buff adds a bit of speed to your movement, and orange provides defensive buffs. But if you have them combined, white plus orange now provides good earplugs and brace to the Kinsect Glaive. For those new, this means that you'll instantly be able to ignore most monster hunt roars and friendly attacks. It's very helpful for multi-hunts and solo hunts, and it saves you jewel slots compared to other weapons. Now because of this perk, I want to take a moment to point out a really cool Kinsect. The Faux Beetle, while being a rarity 2 Kinsect, is an assist Kinsect that always grabs orange. Orange is one of the hardest buffs to get on most monsters, but with this Kinsect, you always grab orange no matter where you hit the white or red body parts. So at the start of any hunt, if you launch your Kinsect at a leg or tail to grab white and instant recall, you'll actually have earplugs before the monster does their initial roar. This means that it's ideally the best time for you to then hit the head to get red buff, because while they are roaring, they don't move. If you dodge roll roars or you use the advancing slash, which we'll talk about later, this won't be as necessary, and you can use the Carnage Assist Kinsect, which deals the highest damage. The other benefit here is that the Assist Kinsect actually decreases the time of your buffs that are active. They almost half them. So using the Faux Beetle, it'll make it really easy throughout a hunt to constantly keep earplug buffs. Now each buff has their own timer, usually red being the shortest. However, when you have all three buffs, the timer is reset and set for a certain period of time, after which all the buffs are lost. So throughout a hunt, be sure to keep an eye on this. When you see the buffs begin to flash, you have about 10 seconds before they disappear, so this is when I would stop attacking and position yourself to get the red buff immediately, or get your earplugs, depending on the situation. A final note on Kinsects that I will make here is the marking system. Now you can mark a monster using Control to aim and then middle mouse to fire the marker. This will force the Kinsect to do its best to go to this position wherever the marker hit. Most Kinsect Glaive users will place this on the head so you don't have to worry about Kinsect damage, and when it goes to the head, it'll bring back the red buff and reset your timer. The The marker system will work with most Kinsects except one, the new assist type Kinsect, since this one actually follows your attacks directly and automatically. You don't have to even think about it or worry about it. The speed types and powder types, you should be using the markers when you get a chance. Mark the head and move on. Kinsect damage has been buffed in this game. It's great to see, but again, it is not better or more prioritized than your own weapon. Okay, now that you've got your buffs, let's start with some attacks, and then after that we'll go through the best damage combos. The left mouse button is the light attack and it has a 3 move combo. 3 times will get you through a strong rising slash, strong reaping slash, and then finally a strong double slash. Again, if you don't have the red buff, none of these are going to be saying strong, and it's going to be really weird and slow. Rising slash is a good opening if you're standing still, but it'll also have an extra animation which will slow you down. However, despite this, the Rising Slash still has a really nice perk, which is that if you follow it up with a heavy attack, you actually jump right into the single highest damage heavy attack that you have possible with the Insect Glaive. Very ideal to get some quick damage in if you see a small opening. If it creates a bigger opening, then you can go into one of your combos. If you hold W plus left click instead, you do a strong thrust which replaces the Rising Slash in the light combo. This attack has one less attack, but it's much quicker if you're trying to fit in some extra damage. Before moving on to heavy, there's a quick dodge slash that I want to mention. Not a lot of people use this, and quite honestly, because of Insect Glaive's mobility, you probably won't need it. But if you're ever in a situation where you find that you started your combo wrong or the monster turned at the last minute and now you're hitting the back hit zone or a bad hit zone, you want to quickly back out and reset, holding S and pressing right click will actually perform a dodge slash, dealing damage while making space between you and the monster and backing you up. This really is just a way for you to reposition and reset while still getting in some damage without having to roll and run around. Now, speaking of heavy attacks, let's talk about that right click button. Now, these attacks are much stronger, but they do have slightly longer animations, so keep that in mind. Without moving, your heavy combos begin with a strong wide sweep slash, followed by the final high damage attack known as the tornado slash. This attack is the strongest regular hit attack you have. By regular, I do mean excluding Wirebug attacks. Now, similar to light, if you hold W and then click right click, you'll do what is known as the leaping slash. Now, this is a single hit with a slightly longer animation, so less damage than the wide slash, but it sets you up nicely to jump straight into the tornado slash. So if you're ever in a situation where you're closing in on the monster and closing that gap, leaping slash will get you some initial damage, close the gap, and then finish off with the tornado slash. If your weapon is stored, you can also do the leaping slash by holding W plus left click. This means from sheath you're jumping straight into your heavy combo attacks. The leaping slash is fairly accurate and similar to the tornado slash, so ultimately wherever the leaping slash hits, your tornado slash is also going to hit, which is why it is still preferred by speedrunners. Now, while being on the ground is nice, Insect Glaive is known for its aerial capabilities. Once again, it's highly recommended that you are buffed while you're in the air. Not having the red buff will significantly limit what you can do in the air. To launch into the air, Control plus space will perform the vault jump that gets you up. This in and of itself is great for against many monsters to dodge those small attacks, although probably not the most efficient, but depending on the situation, it's just useful to have that ability to dodge. Now, while in the air, clicking space plus any directional key will perform a mid-air evade in said direction. You can only use this evade once between every aerial action, and the other thing to keep in note is that the mid-air evade does use a lot of stamina, so don't rely on it to reposition multiple times in the air. Now, while you're in the air, you have 3 options for an attack, although the third is a new Wirebug skill, so we'll discuss that in the Wirebug section. The first move is one that returns you to the ground, the strong jump slash. Pressing left click while in the air will launch you into a downward spiral. If you perform this after a mid-air evade, your movement forward does not stop mid-air, so if you have horizontal motion, it will combine with the vertical motion, giving you a diagonal attack. So just be careful when you're using it, be sure to aim it properly. I will say that using the diving wyvern is a much better aerial finisher than the jump slash, but if you don't have any wirebugs left, or you're just in the air to cover some ground and catch up to a monster, using the jump slash is a perfect way to land on the spot that you want to while still dealing damage. The second move is similar to that in World, with an added change. While in the air, pressing right click will launch you into the jumping advancing slash. This is a 6-hit combo that spins you in the air, kind of like a helicopter. It's a great move with the final hit dealing the most damage. The final hit also launches you into something known as the vaulting dance. You don't need to click anything, it does it automatically as long as you hit that final shot before you land on the ground. Now similar to World, once you hit that vault dance, you'll be sent up again and you can perform any attack or dodge, whatever you wish to do. Now in Rise is a beautiful feature that every time you vault dance, your damage actually increases by a set percentage, stacking up to 3 times. This is absolutely insane in Rise. The damage increase from this was pointed out by Paradise Central among other creators. So let's take a look at the Diving Wyvern here as an example. You can see that the damage goes up by almost 200% by the final charge. This is huge and it's great damage for an Insect Glaive. I've also confirmed this with all other aerial attacks, so anything in the air gets that charge buff. If you'd like to see a full breakdown, I'll leave a link to Paradise Central's video in the description below, but essentially what this means is that aerial Insect Glaive is greatly viable. So those are the aerial moves in Rise. We'll come back to the Diving Wyvern once we discuss Wirebugs and Switch skills. Now the Wirebug skills are meant to be high level skills unique to every weapon that either do great damage or have some sort of amazing defensive or support skill. For the Glaive, the permanent skill is the Silk Bind Vault. This utilizes a Wirebug to keep you moving in the air or to get you from the ground to the air. It basically extends the aerial reach for the Insect Glaive. From the ground, this also deals a single hit damage if you are close enough to the monster, like you have to be like right next to them. My recommendation for this move is to not use it from the ground though. Continue using your vault to get in the air, and while you're in the air, if the monster repositions, use this Silk Bind to reposition yourself. Now the reason I say this is because it actually maintains your charge levels. Remember the charge levels that made our Diving Wyvern go like 200% up? Those charge levels are maintained if you use the Silk Bind Vault to reposition in the air. Now quick example here, I break Diablo's tail pushing him like multiple steps away, but I use the Silk Bind Vault to catch up to him. I'm still in the air, maintain my charge, and I still did 207 damage on a non-critical hit zone. Now the second Wirebug move is called a Recall Kinsect. This move will get you out of a lot of tight situations. Holding middle mouse button and clicking right click will Wirebug you backwards to safety with decent iframes. In addition to this, your Kinsect will try to do one last hit as you're backing up, and if you're close enough to the monster, it'll actually hit the monster and come back to you and heal your health about 20%. So this is a great skill to get you out of a sticky situation, and since this game doesn't have health augments like Monster Hunter World, it enables Insect Glaive to be one of the only self-healing weapons. So those are all the default skills. Let's talk about these switch skills now, and we're going to go a little bit out of order here and start off with the Diving Wyvern since we were just talking about Wirebugs. So you can switch these skills when you go to your item box. There's just an option for you to switch skills. The last one is the Wirebug skill. Now for those returning from Monster Hunter World, this looks awfully familiar. It's the downward thrust, but now it's only limited to Wirebug uses. To perform this, it's basically the same controls as the Recall Kinsect. Holding middle mouse button plus E or right click. This can occur from the ground and it'll send you up and down in the same spot. But as I mentioned before, this attack actually scales with the aerial charges. So it's actually quite literally 200% better to use from the air. This is still a fantastic skill for damage. Definitely one of my favorite Insect Glaive skills. Probably the best and highest motion value we've ever seen for an Insect Glaive attack. I believe Capcom did a great job balancing this aerial thrust compared to World where you could spam it indefinitely. In Rise, it feels much stronger, less frequent, both of which combine to make that feeling of landing this baby so much more satisfying. Moving on to the two normal switch skills now, the Leaping Slash is replaced by the Advancing Slash. Now while the controls are the same, the playstyles are radically different. The Advancing Slash gives you a forward spin with 5 hits and move you quite a bit of a distance. It's great in a hunt to close a gap real quick, but keep in mind the farther you are, the less hits you're actually going to get on the monster. Additionally, you can't jump right into the final attack like the Leaping Slash. If you want to transition into the Advancing Slash to your final heavy hit, you have to do an Advancing Slash followed by a Rising Slash and then the heavy attack. So getting to that final Tornado Slash is a little bit more work with this skill, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing since there's a couple of perks that balance it out. One of which is the counter ability that it grants you. If a monster hits you while you are advancing, and this includes roars, you actually take no damage, you get thrown into the air, then that lets you dodge or attack the monster from the air. I believe this is where this skill really shines, and it adds to the aerial style that's prominent in Rise, because if you land a counter, your aerial charge for the Insect Glaive is actually automatically charged by 1 level. So any aerial attack you do after this counter is more than base aerial attacks. So yes, while you do give up a little bit of accuracy using this skill, overall the perks of countering, moving, and immediate charging of aerial damage are worth in my opinion. The final switch skill is the Tetra Seal Slash. Now this is a very interesting and widely controversial skill. The Tetra Seal replaces the almighty Tornado Slash with a 4-hit multi-attack which ends with a high damage strike. Now it's pretty cool, it looks really cool, but it has a huge animation lock and you lose a lot of that mobility because of it. Additionally, if you start the attack, you cannot stop, even if the monster moves away, so it puts you in a very vulnerable spot. Sadly as well, the attack is very wide, meaning you're going to most likely hit multiple hit zones aside from the one that you want. Not ideal for DPS. The final attack does have a decent motion value, so it does decent damage, and there is a single blunt hit as well within the multi-hit. However, the DPS potential overall is still lower. It's a very situational skill. You almost always have to pair it with a blunt assist Kinsect to get some extra damage to get those knocks. The plus side of this skill is that when a monster is knocked, you actually can output a large amount of DPS because now they're not moving. But basically throughout the rest of the hunt, when they are moving, it's a lot harder to actually hit monsters. So to summarize this skill, it's generally not worth to use unless you're pairing it with a very matching monster, which is basically someone with big hit zones and slow moving target. That's about it for the attacks and skills necessary for the Insect Glaive. Let's take a look at combining these. So if you're returning from World, the attacks of the original Bread and Butter are actually quite the same, with one small adjustment. This consists of the Thrust Light Attack, followed by the Strong Wide Slash, and finishing with the Tornado Slash. It's a very quick combo, and the most important move to make sure that you land is the final Tornado Slash. This makes the difference between doing good DPS and not. If you have some extra time, you can also throw in a light attack after the wide sweep attack, and then follow up with the final heavy attack. I mentioned this before that the Rising Slash is a great skill to follow up with the Tornado Slash, so this applies right here. The big change that comes with Rise with this combo, along with all the other combos later on, is the addition of the Kinsect Recall at the end of the Tornado Slash. Now as I mentioned before, the recall essentially cancels out that long animation of the Tornado Slash. So you can see right here, I gained freedom of my character much earlier than if I didn't use the recall and instead tried to roll. This is a big time save in my opinion, thus if you use the first 3-step combo, Kinsect Recall, and then immediately do a double heavy combo doing the wide slash and then the Tornado Slash, on most monsters you can actually fit that second Tornado Slash in, which is huge DPS. I've done it quite a few times, sometimes I have missed as well, so it is a bit of a hit and miss, also depends on your awareness and your positioning and your reactions to the monsters. It is also now a 6-step combo instead of just 3, so it will take a little bit of time to get used to it. The next combo is the aerial combo, which is the next biggest DPS combo, only second to the one we just talked about because it takes a little bit longer to set up. This is of course the triple aerial charge and then diving wyvern attack. So you begin this by vaulting into the air or silk bind vault if the monster was knocked back a couple steps. Do your best to get the 3 vault dances off by clicking right click every time you bounce off the vault. Once you're on your 3rd charge, you will not have much time left, so you need to know exactly where the weakest body part is. Again, this differs for most monsters, but try to go for the head for most. You have to mid-air evade over that location and then instantly initiate the diving wyvern. The best part of this wyvern attack is that the wirebug attaches to the ground directly beneath you and stops mid-air. So all you need to worry about is positioning over the target. Now positioning is very key, so don't take it too lightly. The hitboxes of the monsters in Rise are quite small and so is the diving wyvern, so even if you're off by a few inches, you will miss. I would highly suggest that for any knock or opening that you see, use this combo. For mid fights, when the monster is kind of active and running around, you could still use it, but it's a lot more riskier to go for 3 charges. My recommendation is that you cap it at 2, evade, dive, get some damage, and then reset. In my opinion, a little bit of good damage is better than no damage. Alright, moving on to the next combo. If you are a few meters away from the monster and let's say they exhaust or like finish attacking and they're kind of resting up, another combo you can do is start with the leaping slash to close the distance, and then you have a few options from there. You can either jump straight into the final tornado slash if you think the monster is about to reposition or attack you again, quick finish and get out. If you have some more time, do another light attack to do a rising slash, and then from there you can finish the tornado slash. That's about all you'll have. If you have more time than this, you should be starting your original bread and butter combo from the start. The next combo uses the advancing slash, which again will change your combos a little bit. You can't do what you did with the leaping slash by jumping right into your final heavy, but you can do the light rising slash and then tornado slash. The big combo that I like to do with the advancing slash is actually a counter and then diving wyvern on the enemy. You can use the advancing slash counter to hit a monster while they're hitting you, launch into the air, mid-air evade behind them or over them, and then do the diving wyvern slash. Again, it's already going to be charged by 1 level, so you are getting some extra damage when you do the diving wyvern. The other thing to note here is that, like, most of the time if you get this counter, the monster's still going to move around, so you gotta be really quick. You gotta just know where he is, evade right over him, get the diving wyvern, and clear out. And those are all the skills and combos that you guys need to know. For those of you on PC, welcome to Monster Hunter Rise. I hope you guys enjoy the Insect Glaive. I do want to give my opinion here on what works best, and if you've seen my previous videos, this is pretty much the exact same as my last one. So let's start off. The diving wyvern, hands down, should be in all the builds. It's just so good in this game. With aerial being buffed, it's a no-brainer. You don't need the Kinsect recall. As the saying goes, you know, the best defense is a good offense. So in this case, why dodge and heal when you can just attack and get a huge knock? I also love the advancing slash paired with the tornado slash. These two for me give me the most utility, the chance to do some cool counters and still get some good damage in. As long as your positioning and awareness are solid, you won't be too far away from the monster and thus you won't require that leaping slash. However, if you are going for like super efficiency TA runs, you might want to go with the leaping slash because the advancing slash does have a little bit more inaccuracy. In terms of Kinsects, for me, I use the assist Kinsect for better DPS. If I want to just do more chill hunts or I want to go for some good speed runs, I definitely use that one because it's just extra damage without having to think. If I want to have some fun and have some good times, I bring my speed charged chain attack Kinsects. They are a lot of fun to use and they have great damage. They just add that extra step in your hunt. So it's like if you want to practice or just have some fun and you're not too worried about being super efficient, bring them on in. They're a lot of fun to launch before every combo. And you have to do your Kinsect recall anyway. So if you're recalling your Kinsect after every single combo, that's just going to bring your Kinsect back and you can let it recharge again. In terms of armor skills, I won't go into too much detail here. It's just kind of a little brief overview because I do have some build videos on the channel already. So go ahead, take a look at those. Be sure to subscribe for more because as the game comes out and Sunbreak coming out in the summer, we're going to have updates on the builds and the meta. So Insect Glaive is a blade master weapon, so certain perks are pretty universal. Weakness exploit is great in Rise. Ideally, you can get this from talismans. You want it on the talismans. The 2 Wex charm, critical boost, and critical eye, both great. Attack boost is brilliant. You never go wrong with attack boost. You just want more damage. Power prolonger will actually work on more comfy builds. So this extends the duration of your Kinsect buffs, which will help you focus on damaging for longer and worrying less. Stun resistance is also very nice because a lot of monsters actually do stun in Rise. I would always have stun resistance if you can. Speed sharpening is also very helpful early game. Finally, when you get to end game, heroics is absolutely terrifying but fantastic for damage. I recommend everyone use heroics, or at least try it, because if you can win a hunt while actually having heroics applied, that means you've mastered the hunt. You haven't gotten hit, you're getting high damage, you've mastered that hunt. And that is a complete breakdown of the Insect Glaive in Rise, guys. I hope this tutorial has helped you all. Please leave any comments, concerns, questions that I should address. Drop them in the comments and I will take a look at them. Thank you so much for watching, taking the time and supporting the channel. Rise is an amazing game, and for those of you joining us on PC in the last couple of days here, I hope you guys enjoyed. Welcome to the community, and if you'd like to join me and hunt with my community, come and join our Discord. There's a link in the description. You can just click on that, head on over there, and there's a couple of us always hunting on PC. Till next time, guys, stay safe, be happy, and keep hunting. Sky Sensei is out.